Welcome to Eagle City Multifamily Show, where we talk all things apartments. But first, I want to say that this is not legal or financial advice. It is simply professionals sharing what we do. And we have a amazing story here with Andrea Reagan. So, Andrea, would you mind sharing us how you got into apartments, maybe your background story?
Sounds great. So I first started thinking about getting into apartments back in 2019. And before that, I was doing, single families or even just up to like a fourplex. That was my big dream, was to get a fourplex down in Florida. And then I stumbled upon, it was actually one of Grant Cardone's books, I think it was, or one of his web cast that said you need at least 20 units in order to make a really good deal. And so I was like, okay, 20 units. And I had a house in Vegas, my house in Vegas, that I owned free and clear. I paid it all off, everybody's dream. And I had my parents helped me buy it. And so they were a little involved in it. And I was like, I'm going to put a mortgage on this house and I'm going to use the equity. They call it equity scraping. So I'm going to do some equity scraping and I'm going to take the money out and I'm going to buy myself an apartment building. And so I got a loan for 196,000 that I just cashed out, which that's a whole nother story. I cried and cried and cried. I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever done. My dad was so disappointed. He's like, wait a second, you're putting a mortgage on a property that you own free and clear. And I was like, yes. But I did it crying the whole time, signing everything. So I got my 196,000. And then I'm like, well, now I need to figure out how to get this apartment. Well, my W-2 job is I'm an international flight attendant. So it's really hard for me to do anything boots on the ground because I'm in Europe most of the time. So I actually went on Bigger Pockets, is where I found my partner. And I was just, throwing out darts, looking for anybody that would work with me, be boots on the ground for me, that seemed to know what they were talking about. And I found this guy, and he has a master's degree, and he actually was working for one of the big real estate firms. I don't remember which one, but I checked it all out, and it was all legit. And he talks a really good game, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, I want 20 plus units. That's the goal. And he was like, okay. Well, he finds this property, and he did the cardinal sin, and he fell in love with the property. I kept telling him, you're in love with the property. He goes, no, I'm not in love with the property, I'm in love with the deal. Same difference. He wasn't willing to walk away. And it was the one of the many little quirks about this deal. It was a fourplex in Pompano Beach, Florida, and it was completely distressed. It had been abandoned for, gosh, I think 6 years. The current owner had owned it and hadn't done anything with it, and it was trashed. All the electric had been stolen, all the pipes had been stolen, the HVACs were all gone. I mean, it was a mess. And he was like, oh, there's such great upside, we got to do this, we got to do this. And I was like, but it's only 4 units. I'm like, I really want bigger. And he's like, oh, but you don't understand, we're going to be able to do this, and we're going to flip it, and then we'll get more money, and then we can do your deal. And I'm like, fine. And so we start the process, and we take it to the lender. And the lender is like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and here's your great rate, and everything's going to work. Hold on, let me pull the legal. He pulls the legal. Boom! It's got a fifth unit. Yeah, it is no longer considered residential. So for everybody out there that doesn't know, if you buy a home, it's just a single family, it's considered residential. A duplex, still residential. Triplex, still residential. Even a quadplex is still residential. Bung! You add that fifth unit, it is now a commercial property, and the same lenders can't lend on it. So this guy dropped us like a hot potato. He's like, I can't even help you. So then that was hurdle number one.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
falling in love with a property is something that we stay away from, right? The financials need to make sense for us, maybe someone else, but for us, right?
Yes.
It's amazing.
And
I want to hear more about this.
yeah, and so he just would, he was like a little pit bull with this, he found his gold nugget, and he just would not. And I'm like, dude, let it go. I'm like, there's so much else out there. This is too much. Just let it go. Let's just get something that we can cash flow, because I still, really wanted to get into apartments. I still wanted to have cash flow. I didn't want to be in the fix and flip business. And we said what we were going to do is we were going to rehab it, and then we were going to rent it out. And our deal was it would always be for sale at the right price. And then we would rent it in the meantime until somebody wanted to pay what we wanted to sell it for. So, okay, fine, fine, fine. And so he talked it down. Luckily, while we were in the negotiations, it originally started at, I think it started at 350 was the original price. And while the negotiations were going on, things were happening in the world. This was February of 2020.
Oh,
Yeah.
right before virtual
Yes.
life,
So,
COVID.
so this is all going down February 2020. We started talking in the end of 19. We started our LLC together in January, and then he fell in love with this property, started doing everything. Well, as the world's falling apart around us, the price, he's being able to negotiate it down, 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 down. So now it's down to $200,000.
Okay.
So now I'm like, yeah, a fiveplex in Pompano Beach, Florida for $200,000. How bad of a deal can it be? Because I had already looked at some fourplexes, because like I said, that was my original before I got my mind expanded into the multifamily world, the true multifamily world, not the little fourplex residential world. Um, so we got it talked down to 200,000. I'm like, that is a great deal, because I'd been looking at fourplexes and they were 700, and they were dives. So now I'm like, okay. Well, then he digs a little deeper. It had liens. It
Oh,
had code violations.
oh,
Take a guess how much?
oh. Hey, I don't know where to start. Bring it to us.
$3 million worth of
Oh,
code violations that were going to stay with the property even after we bought it. And I'm like, really? Really? You want me to buy a property that has $3 million
ooh,
worth of liens on it?
no.
I'm like, you've got to be kidding. And I told him from point blank, I said, I have $196,000, period. I'm like, I told him what all happened. Little teeny backstory. I almost went bankrupt in 2010 because I had bought a condo in Vegas in 2005, which I don't know if your viewers know, but Vegas was the number one hit in the 2008 crash. I bought it for 129 and I sold it for 20.
Oh,
Yeah.
no way.
So I was looking at going bankrupt in 2010. So 2010, almost bankrupt, bought the house that I eventually refied and got the 196,000. So I'm not made of money at this point. And I told this guy point blank, it got 196,000, and it was supposed to be for a down payment, not the whole thing. So anyhow, so we find out about these $3 million worth of liens that are going to stay attached to the property.
Mm.
And he found out that there was city program that if as long as you got it done before, now remember this is February, as long as you got it done before July 31st,
Oh,
they would waive all the fees and make it down to just $1,000.
hmm,
It was some abatement, I forget what they called it, but it was some deal with the city. And they, as long as you did what you said you were going to do, they would get it down to $1,000. And I'm like, okay, $1,000 is a lot better than 3 million. I'm
wow.
like, I can do that. So we went forward. Well, he couldn't find a lender.
Hmm.
Nobody would lend on a property that has $3 million worth of liens. Gee, can't imagine why. So guess who wrote the check?
I'm guessing you, Andrea. Oh,
Yeah. So I took some more money out of my bank and I ended up buying it for cash, $200,000. I thought I was being smart and I put a mortgage on it and I was charging us 10% interest. Got to get my hard money loanness out there. And, but now we used up all the money. How are we going to fix this thing?
hmm,
So he ends up getting us this construction loan, which took a couple of months. First red flag.
yeah.
And so now the abatement program is almost expiring before we even got our money.
Ooh,
Yeah. And then that money fell through. And we didn't end up getting our construction loan until November. I
oh,
I wrote the check in July. That's when we actually took title. And
okay.
we didn't lift a hammer until, well, we didn't even have the money to lift a hammer. We didn't get to buy the hammer until November. And he didn't start a thing until January.
Ooh,
And I'm in Europe. I'm helpless. And I'm not the one with the master's degree. I'm just supposed to be the money. I mean, that was our agreement. And read, read your operating agreements.
hmm,
Read your operating agreements really well. I thought I read it. I did read it. I didn't quite understand it.
hmm,
How it ended up being is he had all the power and I had none.
hmm,
So I was 95% of the money. He was 5% of the money. He was supposed to do all of the work. And then for that, he was going to get a 15% equity position on top of his 5%. So he was going to be 20% coming out and I was going to be 80% coming out. But I wasn't supposed to touch it. I mean, I didn't even see it. I never met the guy in real life until March of 21. I didn't see the property until March of 21. We did Zoom and everything because, like we've already said, the world shut down. It's not like I could just pop on a plane and go down there because it was Florida and everybody was really scared of Florida at the time. I don't know if you remember, Florida was like
I
number one in
do.
the nation for the whole COVID
Oh, I
thing.
do. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so it was just one bad after another bad after another bad after another bad. And he hired a friend. Don't hire a professional. Don't hire your friends. So he
Absolutely.
hired a friend as the GC, somebody he knew from college. And when I actually saw the name, it was a landscaper, not even a landscaper, like a lawn maintenance company he hired as our general contractor.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm really curious about the $2 million liens now.
Yeah, three, 3 million,
Hmm.
and accruing $1,175 a day.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is all still going on and it's into the next year. And everybody's like, what are you doing? My dad just thinks I'm totally insane. And I'm like, he says he's doing stuff. Well, yeah, he wasn't doing so much, and his contractor wasn't doing so much because he had a full-time jobs too, and just nobody was managing the man. Nobody managed the manager, And it just kept dragging and dragging. And then also, if you remember during the pandemic, the cost of supplies and the availability, like our we, you know, it was complete guts. So we had to get all of the, you know, we had to get the sinks, the cabinets, the refrigerators, everything. And they were on like a 4 month back order.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything. It was everything. I mean, there was nothing, nothing has gone right. Nothing has gone right on this deal. And so I went and I saw it in March, and it looked like it was progressing really well. I went and I got to walk through the walls. We had removed
Ooh.
all of the drywall. And so I actually walked from unit 4 all the way to unit 1. Unit 5 is off to the side. So that's why it wasn't that. With just walking through the wall, I was ghost. It was awesome. The bathtubs were in. The bathtubs, the plumbing, and some of the electrical were the only thing that was in when I saw it the first time. And I took all my before pictures or my during pictures, and everybody was on. I thought we were going, you know, look at these people doing things. And then not. It would just stall and stall and stall. And he had no communication. Make sure your deal sponsor communicates with you.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
it's a little scary when you go 6 months without hearing anything and you're like, hey, what's up? And they're like, hey. And you're like, no, really, I want to know about the property. Okay. No, actually, tell me about the property. So those are things to look for. Make sure your deal sponsor is communicative. Uh, so yeah, he just dropped the ball and dropped the ball some more. And then he wrote to me and said, which in all of this, he had another baby. And so he ended up getting back together with the baby's mama. And he wrote to me and he was like, hey, we're thinking about moving to Georgia because, you know, the schools are so much better. And now that we've got these 3 kids, you know, we want a bigger place and we can't really afford it here in Florida. So we're thinking about moving in Georgia. Thinking. So he tells me this in like July, August of 21. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Just, you know, what are you thinking? You know, we got to get this project done. So everything's just no communication, just going on. And I'm just hoping in my mind that things are actually happening. Well, then I find out in January of 22.
Mm.
Now, remember, we bought this in July of 2020. A
Yeah.
flip should take about 30 to 90 days.
Yeah. Your interest is accruing on your construction loan too, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We got a $275,000 construction loan, which bought me out. So now I no longer own the mortgage. And they supposedly paid me off, but I didn't get paid off. I only got like $16,000 of my money back.
Hmm.
So I'm out. At that point, I was out still $205,000
Hmm.
and no income. And the interest rate was 10% interest only.
Okay.
But at the time, it was still built in escrow. So it was part of the loan. So it was just paying itself,
Hmm.
which was a little confusing to somebody who, you know, I'm still fairly new to all of this, you know, at this point. And so anyhow, so now I'm going to the Grant Cardone thing. I'm going to GrowthCon, and it's down in Florida, kind of by my property. And so I contact my partner and I was like, hey, I'm going to be in town. When can you meet me at the property? So this is March of 2022. Oh, I skipped in January. We found out that the copper had been stolen for the HVAC,
Hmm.
and somebody had smashed one of our hurricane glass windows.
Hmm.
And then I found out my partner let the insurance lapse.
Oh,
Yeah, we weren't insured. It was awesome. I had paid him for the insurance. He just didn't bother to actually renew. It was
yeah, that's
awesome.
not good.
Yes, so these are all the things that you need to watch out for when you are looking for a deal sponsor, which I can't believe anybody would actually be this irresponsible. Um, so
Tell
these
us
are all the
about
horror
your growth,
stories.
Con. Did you learn something there?
Yes. So anyhow, so that's in January. I find out about the window being smashed. And I get there in March, going to GrowthCon, and I'm like, hey, meet me at the property. He goes, well, you know how last year I said I was thinking about moving to Georgia? And I said, yeah. He goes, I did. I was
Mm,
like, what?
mm,
I said, when did you move to Georgia? Now, remember, he's my boots on the ground. He's supposed to be the manager running this thing. And for our future plans, he was actually supposed to be the property manager too. He was going to be the one collecting the rents and, unclogging the toilets, according to him.
mm,
And I said, so when did you move? September.
mm,
So he moved out of state 6 months, over 6 months before he told me.
mm.
So there was nobody even in state. He hadn't seen the property since September of the year before when I got there in March. It looked abandoned. There were leaves piled up in front of the doors. We had some drainage issues, and they dug up a part of our concrete pad right by the driveway, and a piece of concrete about the size of a bug, like as in a VW bug,
Mm.
of concrete was missing, and a hole big enough to put that bug inside was right there. I'm like, are we trying to get sued? Do we have a giant sign being like, hey, sue us right here, come drop your car in this hole?
Mm.
I was just flabbergasted, and he had been that way since January. So we still had the broken window, we still had this giant hole in the ground. So I start making phone calls. And this is, I'm supposed to be the complete silent partner. I have zero amount of pull according to our contract. I'm the he's the managing member and I'm just a member of the LLC. And so I just had to start picking up the reins. And so I learned how to rehab a property trial by fire. So I got somebody to come fill the hole. I got somebody to come fix the windows and all of this while I'm in Europe. And it was quite the challenge. And so he just never went back to the property. Still to this day, he's never been back to the property. So I've gone back like 4 times, but it's not like I can just get back there from Europe. So I went, the last time I was there was in August, and the only thing we needed done were the inspections.
Oh.
And our HVAC was having one of the 5 units, the HVAC just wasn't working right. And another one, the compressor would kick on, kick off, kick on, kick off. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then they test it and they find out 3 of our air conditioners, units 3, 4, and 5, are all tied into the same drain, and it's not draining.
Mm.
And nobody can figure out why. So that was in August. And I'm like, okay, we need to fix this. Let's get this done. And still to this day, as I sit right here, right now, I don't think our HVACs are done. And we have 2, not 1, but 2 offers to buy this property. We've actually got money in escrow, but it was supposed to close last month. Our construction loan, we've extended it 3 times now. It ended at the end of October. And they said, as long as we close before November 30th, we're okay. But as far as I know, as of right this second, those HVACs still aren't working.
Well,
And I
that
just don't know what to do because I'm in Europe. I don't get off work until, I can't even get back to the United States until the 20th.
well, I'm curious about the Growth Con. Did you attend that? Maybe did
Yeah,
you
I did.
know people there that knew how to help you?
GrowthCon isn't a big real estate thing, it's a big business thing. And so we weren't really talking that much about real estate. Had it been the real estate investment summit, that I'm going to be going to next March, I think I would have had a lot more, you know, ability to talk to people about getting this done. But it's just been pulling teeth, getting the contractors to do the work, getting my partner to even get on the phone with me. And he's like, I get on his case. I'm like, look, dude, you need to communicate with me. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Well, that was 2 months ago. He's like, I'll send you weekly emails. Still nothing, still nothing. And I just I don't know what to do. But the moral of the story is have a good partner. you
Wow.
know, make sure who you're working with knows what they're doing and has a good team.
Yes,
Because
so important. That is
so
so.
back to the $3 million that you asked about.
Mhm.
One little ray of sunshine in there is I actually kind of made friends with the guy who was in charge of the code compliance.
Mhm.
And so he showed up and came and looked at the property and told me what all to fix and what hoops I needed to jump. And the last time I was there in August, he said, "Okay, if he's like, you get the window fixed, you got the concrete fixed, you get the lawn mowed and these bushes trimmed, I'll sign off on it." And I was like, done. So the next day I had already gotten the window fixed. I'd already gotten the concrete fixed. I called a landscaper. I got those bushes trimmed. I got that lawn done the next day, sent him pictures, told him drive by. And so he took it to the magistrate. And as far as I know, that's all been dropped. And we did only have to pay, I think we had to pay $1,600 to get out of it. But by the time all was said and done, it was over $4 million worth of liens last I had checked. It was scary.
And
Scary.
Andrea, did you say all those liens got dropped except 1,600 or so?
Well, that was the mediation thing that they had originally talked about back in 2020, that as long as you did the work,
Mhm.
they would drop it down to $1,000. And then I don't know what the extra 600 was for administration fees or
Right.
whatever.
So,
But
but
boy,
that's good then. If that's good, if all those got dropped. But yes, it's very important to know the track record of your partners, whether you're investing passively or as an active partner in a deal. So that's what we do here at Eagle City Multifamily.
yeah,
We
and go ahead.
we partner with uh, experienced team members, and we give out monthly reports on all our deals to all our investors, and come check us out. So thank
Awesome.
you, Andrea. Thank you so much for this story. Very in depth. And we'll
So here's
the next show.
one thing that would have saved all of this: education. Because had I known the word syndication,
Mhm.
I would have looked up you,
Yeah.
because I would have known what I was looking for. Because that's all I really wanted to be. I just wanted to be an LP. I just wanted to put my money in and get a deal, but I didn't know the word syndication. I didn't know that people like you existed. So you guys are all ahead of my curve because you have met her.
Yes. Well, there. That's amazing, Andrea. That's a great point there. So that this experience will be worth so much in the future if you stay on track anyway. This will be worth probably more than the expense it cost you in the future, because you know all these things now.
I
So
call it my $200,000 real estate education.
yeah.
Yep, I've been calling it that for the whole 2 years. Once it wasn't done in the first 90 days, I was just like, That's what it is. It's just an education.
Thanks for watching Eagle City Multifamily Show. We'll see you on the next one.